Welcome to another episode of Ask Freeman, where you guys ask the questions and I give you my answer. It's worth exactly what you're paying for it. So, again, if you have questions that haven't been answered by full episodes on the show, you can go to retirementship.com/question, submit one there, or email us at questions@retirementship.com. And anything you have, got something on your mind, just go ahead and send it to us. We'll see if we can either make a full episode of it or get it into one of these Ask Freeman episode. So first question I got, and it was from somebody who kind of meandered a little bit, but basically I think the main question he has, this was from Dave, is that does ESG investing support good causes? It was around some of the things he'd heard about, some potential rulings from the Biden administration about 401ks and how much ESG, and I'm not going to go into all of that. There's a whole bunch of misinformation going on around that, so I may do something else about that in particular. But we'll just keep it to what they thought was the core thing is, does ESG investing actually help? Does it actually support good causes? And if you don't know what that is, ESG investing basically stands for environmental, social, and governance investing. That is where, types or funds that are ESG funds will select companies that they think meet certain standards for environmental awareness. Like, what are they doing for the environment? Are they helping the environment? Are they harming it? Obviously, if they're harming it, then they're not going to be considered an ESG company. They wouldn't be in that fund. If they, maybe they need to at least be neutral or trying to do something positive for the environment to be considered one of these types of companies. Social, what are they doing for the society at large? What are they doing socially for their workers and their employees inside the company? And then governance, how are they managed? What's the diversity like on their board of directors or in their C-suite or whatever else? And so there's a whole bunch of different criteria, and different funds will have different criteria for what does or doesn't meet an ESG company and whether or not it can be included in their fund. And so there's ESG S&P 500 funds, where it basically just takes, of the S&P 500, it takes all the companies that are considered ESG companies and includes that in the funds and omits all the ones that aren't, right? So a lot of companies that wouldn't be, would be like, oil companies, anything that they think is going to really harm the environment, anything where they disagree with maybe the politics of the people running the company, whatever it is. And so the whole point is, right, we're trying to invest in companies that are doing good instead of doing harm. And it used to be called socially responsible investing. It's kind of been changed a lot to this more ESG is now a lot of what it's called. There's a lot of types of these, these kinds of funds out there and these different criteria that people use. And what a lot of people think is that if you invest in ESG companies, that you are helping the environment, that you are helping these companies do good in the world, that you are supporting good causes. And I think some of that stems from just, again, a fundamental misunderstanding of what investing truly is. Right? When you give or when you invest in an ESG company, a company that has good, good by the definition. I'm not saying I'm not neither here nor there on whether it's good. I'm going to be totally whatever. I'm not proponent. I'm not a detractor from it in this episode. But if you're investing in an ESG company, a lot of people think that you are then helping the environment, helping society, helping, make sure that companies have good governance and all these other things. But again, when you are actually investing in a company, what you are doing is you are purchasing ownership shares of that company. You are not supporting the company. You are not doing any of those kind of things. And so some people think I want to invest in Patagonia, for example. It'd be considered an ESG company. They really care about their employees. They care about society. They do a lot to help. They donate a lot of their profits to organizations, this, that, and the other thing, right? I really want to support this company, and I want to make sure that they do well, and I want to make money from them, and so I'm going to support them. Well, again, other than the initial public offering, when a company initially goes public, when they were privately owned, but they sell out and they decide to sell their shares to the general public so that anyone can become an owner, when you invest in a company, you're not giving them money, right? And so in the same way, like if you buy stock in an oil company, you are not helping the oil industry. If you buy stock in Patagonia, you are not helping the environment. None of the money that you put into funds, or that even if you buy stocks directly, none of that money goes towards the company itself, right? All the ownership shares are already out there. When you buy ownership shares of Patagonia or of BP Oil, an ESG company and a not ESG company, you are that money that you are investing in those companies just goes to someone else who used to own those shares and are now selling them to you, right? And so they had the shares, they owned the company, now they don't, and now you do. And your money went to them, and their ownership shares went from them to you. And so that's where the money goes. And so if you're invested in tobacco or big pharma or big oil or any of these other things, right? Like, you're not supporting those industries by being invested in them. And if you're invested in Patagonia or Target or Apple or what are these other ones, you're not helping the environment or any of these other things by investing in them. That's not how that works, right? You were just now having an ownership share in those companies. Now, when they make profits, you make money, right? That's the deal. When you're an owner of a company, when that company makes money and they pay out profits, they pay out dividends to you as the owner. And you get those, and you can reinvest those back in the fund or in the company or take them out as cash, whatever it is. And so in some sense, you can profit off of good things that companies are doing, off ESG companies, or you can profit off of tobacco or big oil or these other things. So you can benefit from them, but you are not benefiting the companies or the industries or any of those things on either side of the aisle when you invest. So that's just a good thing to, so, if you've got some issues with certain types of companies, or the way that they're run, or the way they treat their employees, or the way they treat the environment or whatever else, and you don't want to personally make a profit off that. Like, hey, I detest that people make a profit off of these things, and I don't want anything to do with it. And so even though there's lots of profits to be had, I don't want a part of it, right? I just don't want to be involved in that. That's one thing, and you can totally do that, and that's what ESG company is for. But I think a lot of people think they're actually supporting the environment if they invest in ESG, or they're supporting big oil or whatever else if they don't. And that's just not true. That's not how that works. In fact, if you wanted to actually make a difference in the environment, right, or in social or governance type things, the best thing to do would actually be to invest in those companies that you think are doing it wrong. That you would actually take money and do one of two things, right? Either, so let's take BP oil, for example. I just, for whatever reason, they just came to mind, right? Let's say you hated big oil, you think that they're ruining the environment, whatever else. The best thing that you could do, arguably, is to buy shares of BP oil and get a whole bunch of other people that think like you to also buy shares of BP oil, and then do one of two things. Either one, you now have enough shares, enough ownership in it, and every time when you have ownership of a company, you have voting rights, right? You own the company, so does a whole bunch of other people, so you can't just make them do whatever you want, but you get to vote along with everyone else who's owners of that company, and in terms of who runs it, who the board of directors are, who the CEO is, all these different things, right? So you get to vote towards those things. And so if you don't like the way a certain company is operating, you're actually better off owning that company or that type of company in order to then, be able to put your influence in there and try to steer them in a direction that you think is better, right? And so far from you supporting big oil, if you hate them, by investing in them, you actually have a chance to change them by investing in them. And so maybe in some cases, like, you don't want, if you are opposed to those things, you shouldn't steer clear of them. You should invest in them to try to make a difference that way. The other thing you could do is you could take all those profits that they make. Let's say that big oil makes a ton of profits and you don't want to profit from that. Well, you could, again, invest in them so you could, one, change the way that they're run, but then two, any profits that you do make in the meantime, you could turn right around and donate to relief organizations for oil cleanup spills or whatever else, right? And take those profits and turn them right back around and use them against the company that you're now a partial owner of. That'd be another way that you could actually make a difference in terms of the different causes that you care about. So again, investing in an ESG company does not help those causes. It just means that you're profiting off of them. Investing in non-ESG companies don't help those companies or industries. It just means you're profiting off of them. And if you want to change things, then use the profits of your investments to make change, or use the voting rights that you have as a shareholder to make change. So, does ESG investing support good causes? No, I don't think so. Not really. Maybe in a very roundabout basis, but you're much better off taking direct action and donating to organizations and causes you care about. And one of the best ways to do that is to make as much money as you can inside the law, right? And balance with family and all your other obligations, but make as much money as you can and then use some of that money to donate and to make change in your community or in those around you. So that would be my answer to does ESG investing support good causes? I had a couple other ones I was going to do in this one, but I think we're just going to make this a short one. So yeah, if you have other questions, questions at retirementship.com or go to retirementship.com/question. You can submit one and we will pick it up. I'm just going to do another one right away for next week. Again, this is episode 109. So go to retirementship.com/109. You can find any links. I'll probably eventually do a greater episode on ESG investing. So if you're listening to this in the past, that may have been released already, and so you can find a link to that episode in the show notes there. So good to see you. We'll see you next week with another Ask Freeman, and then we'll get back into some pre-programmed episodes. Take care. We'll see you next time. Cheers. If you enjoyed that, you would love being part of our free membership community. It's called Retire Membership, and it has a host of benefits, all for free. For example, you can always buy my book, 3D Retirement Income, on Amazon. But if you join us at Retire Membership, we will send you either a hard copy or paperback for free, provide the ebook and the audiobook so that you can listen to it if you don't have time to read it. In addition to that, we'll also provide you with a bunch of content that you can't get anywhere else. For example, we have our quarterly Retire Mentorship magazine, which comes out quarterly and has no ads whatsoever. It's just timely content to help you stay the course. We also have workbooks for our free online workshop to help you get the most out of those, flowcharts to help you make better decisions, and a weekly email to provide timely content that you can unsubscribe from at any time. We never ask for any payment information, and we never share your information with anyone else. We just want to provide timely content and help you stay the course to retire successfully and stay successfully retired. There's no reason to wait, so join us now at retiremembership.com, or you can click in the link in the description and it'll go right there. We can't wait to see you in the community. Cheers. This podcast is educational only and is not investment, tax, or legal advice.